My name is Geno Samuel, and welcome back to Discographies, Yes, where I take way too long to talk about every Yes studio album in chronological order, seeing what makes them tick and expressing opinions and such. Now, the band, after their last album, were riding high and were eager to produce something bigger and even better. They originally planned for the album to be released as a double album, with a mix of studio and live recordings as well, but the budgeting wouldn't allow it. However, the album that they did make does in a way feature a combination of two concepts. I'll delve deeper into that a bit later. But first, they didn't have a keyboardist, so they had to tend to that first. They didn't have to search for very long because they found the right man for the job in the band The Strawbs, and it was of course the keyboardist Rick Wakeman, a classically trained musician who was well adept with a wide range of keyboard instruments, be they acoustic or electronic. He was also an accomplished session musician who was notably a contributor to the keyboard parts in David Bowie's Space Oddity a few years back, and perfectly complemented the band and the direction they were going in at the time. So how did the new and improved Yes perform on their new album? Well, let's take a look at it. Their fourth album, Fragile, was released in November 1971 in the UK and in January of the following year in the US. Eddie Offord was back in the studio producing the album together with Yes. It crucially is the first collaboration with artist Roger Dean, who designed their album cover and had a knack for conceiving fantastical landscapes. Here it's a miniature planet that is breaking apart slowly because it's fragile. This would be a continuing theme that was a way for Dean to tell a story through the album artwork. His imagery would become synonymous with Yes and prog rock in general. The opening track has in recent years received a kind of resurgence, but I'm pretty sure that most people who heard it didn't realize what they were listening to. I'm talking of course about Roundabout, which became a hit single at the time and is one of their most recognizable tracks. It was recently used as the end credits theme for the anime JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and birthed the to be continued internet meme, parodying the typical cliffhanger endings of the anime. How does the song go though? Well, it's magic. The song is magic. The first thing you hear is a slow fade-in of a piano note, played backwards. It sounds very otherworldly, and it leads into a prelude on acoustic guitar, with Steve Howe playing a musical musing in free rhythm. At the end of this section, we hear that editing quirk, which I pointed out last time, wherein the band records in segments, and oftentimes those segments still sound segmented, because they're not blended into each other very well in the studio. Here the lead into the beat of the song is played on acoustic guitar, and if you listen closely there is a noticeable change in the way the free time guitar section and the quick upbeat into the beat sound. I'd say that Howe recorded his free flow part at the start, they stopped the tape, he went back into the control room and listened to the playback, and after he was pleased with the results, he went back into the studio, sat himself down again, readjusted the mic, and recorded the next section. The relative distance and position between the studio mic recording the guitar and the guitar itself do have a significant effect on the recording, as you can see here. But of course these are pretty drastic changes in the recording. It was quite minor, but I think it's still noticeable. And there is a sudden change here, even though there is not a gap in the music. The guitar part, in theory, doesn't take a break and leads right into the song proper, with the bass and drums joining in. Bill Bruford's drum work is fairly straight, devoid of the jazz touches he splattered all over Starship Trooper. The bass line is goddamn chunky. It's chunky with 4 C's. Chris Squire's Rickenbacker bass tone is up on full display here, and it permeates the entire track, but it never gets too much for the mix to handle, and it takes on the role of an electric guitar in a way. It's practically a rock guitar riff played on bass. And I'd say it sounds very significant here because the arrangement at the beginning is pretty sparse. No keys keeping the chords. The acoustic guitar continues to play chords on harmonics. It's very light. Every 4 bars or so, the electric guitar shows up to add a bit of color to introduce the next phrase. So John Anderson's melody line is really cool, and it sounds like it belongs to a hit single. It's simple yet distinctive, and it features, of course, the now obligatory metaphorical lyrics that don't make sense and they shouldn't be taken too literally. He really had the skill of writing grammatically nonsensical lyrics, but still somehow powerful enough to resonate with the audience, who would sing along with the band. The chorus is a hand clapper. It's such a cool atmosphere throughout and so fun, and Wakeman stretches his fingers and shows off on the Hammond organ here, playing arpeggios. After a while, they get into this almost jungle rhythm section, crowded with lots of colorful percussion and vocals in harmony describing some scenery that surely would be a sight to see, full of swirling winds and drifting clouds and many more lively descriptions that really help visualize the music. After that section, the beat takes a backseat as the intro acoustic guitar melody returns, followed by Anderson near whispering the chorus line. Wakeman is now on mellotron, holding flute chords under the vocals. Jesus, in the first track alone, Rick Wakeman jumps around from piano to mini-moog to Hammond organ to mellotron. This guy has a big box of toys and he knows how to play with all of them. Then the band returns and our minds are blown by a Wakeman organ solo, the likes of which have never been seen before on any previous release with Tony Kaye, who mained organ. We get some back and forth soloing between guitar and organ, and Howe's solo lines are actually really good on this one, quite melodic and easy to air guitar to. The biggest issue on the track that I have is that the final verse of the song is more energetic and climactic than the chorus that follows it, and it should well be the opposite. In classic Yes fashion for the outro, they introduce a new theme consisting of multi-layered vocal chanting and cutting off abruptly to conclude the song with the acoustic guitar run from the intro, ending in E major instead of E minor, which is the key of the song. This is sort of evocative of classical pieces by the likes of J.S. Bach, who was quite fond of ending his minor compositions in major. It's a great track, it's over 8 minutes long, but it's so exciting and well put together, you don't really feel it. So what follows is a curious little number, which lets me explain the general concept of this album. On Fragile, 4 of the 9 songs are joint ventures, with contributions coming from all of the members, just like normal band songs. The other 5 are solo ideas, one from each member of the band, which allowed them to play God for their track and single-handedly arrange it to their liking. This was done in a sense to introduce every band member to the audience, to the growing audience, and showcase their own skills. So the second track is Rick Wakeman's offering, Cans and Brahms. It's a short adaptation of Brahms' Symphony No. 4 in E minor, third movement. This is just multi-track Wakeman on his own, playing a wide array of instruments like electric piano, grand piano, organ, electric harpsichord, I think, and synth, to each represent orchestral instruments. It's kind of cool because if you were to do something like this today, you go to your keyboard, spin the wheel, and change to a string section sound, or a flute, or a church organ, whatever you want, really. Back then you had to get really creative. The electronic instruments used here have a bit of a chiptune quality to them, with this one little 2-second long snippet sounding like the background music for a dungeon level in an NES game or something. My favorite part is the multi-track piano runs in 3-part harmony, as supposed to represent the strings. It's great because it's such an unusual sound to have these rapid descending scales played in harmony and so in line with each other by piano, almost exhibiting a near robotic precision. Overall, it's an okay track. It doesn't offend me. It's quite different from everything else on the album though, and that's kind of the point because this is just Wakeman doing his own thing. And also apparently due to a contract conflict with A&M Records, with whom he was signed as a solo artist, he couldn't compose a piece of his own, so he was forced into making an adaptation of a previously existing piece. If he was allowed to come up with something original, I bet it would have run circles around Cans and Brahms. So right after this brief track, we get another snippet of sound called We Have Heaven. This is John Anderson's piece, which also features the rest of the band playing a rather simple arrangement to support Anderson's singing. In typical fashion, the lyrics are whack AF, we have heaven, tell the moon dog, tell the March hare, he is here, to look around. These lyrics cycle through different arrangements and effects, with Anderson's singing getting layered on top of itself countless times. The music is then suddenly cut off by a sound effect of a creaky door slamming shut, and footsteps running away, as if someone peeked into a room and saw the band playing and got so terrified that it got the hell out of there. Honestly, if I happened upon a room with a choir of 10 John Andersons singing about dogs and hares and heaven, I'd question my reality too. I'd question my reality too. I'd question my reality too. This track knows what it is. It's not so much of a song, but rather an exploration of an idea and a display of the technical capabilities of the 16-track recording machine they had in the studio. It doesn't stick around for long, and it's an interesting soundscape. Now, the next track, South Side of the Sky, is the band working together again. It cautiously begins with a fading in of sounds of wind and thunder played by a synth, probably Moog. Moog. How do you pronounce it? Is it Moog or Moog? I need help on this one. The beat kicks in, and all of the band jump right into the verse section of the song. It's a very aggressive, chugging arrangement, and if you turn up the distortion on the guitar line here, it would practically turn into a heavy metal song. And it really does have those qualities that could make it into a real headbanger if it had been recorded at a different time in a different universe where Yes and Black Sabbath stylistically had swapped places. The lyrics are a bit more coherent here, and you can make sense of the scene being addressed. It's a song about mountain climbers who get caught in a brutal snowstorm on their way up and, spoiler alert, they die. It also serves as a metaphor for climbing the mountains in your life, the challenges in your life, and also explores the possibility that death can be beautiful, according to Anderson. The opening line, though, begins with Anderson singing "A river," which is one of his earliest utterances of the word river, which he seemed to have a fondness for, and included in so many of his lyrics later on, probably because of the way it sounds when he says it. A river. Anyway, the choruses are superb. The guitar, bass, and organ play this bar-long riff in 3-part harmony, so no instrument holds the chords in the chorus, and there's no rhythm guitar. The piano or organ don't hold sustained chords to let you know of the tonality. In effect, the harmony produced by the triple riff accomplishes that. This is a compositional trait which has been seen a few times already. The aggressiveness and driving beat add to the struggle and perseverance of the persons in this story. The lyrics read, "Move forward was my friend's only cry, in deeper to somewhere we can lie, and rest in a shelter away from the cold, because the cold makes you want to sleep when what you have to do is keep moving and keep your body warm." And it sounds like the climbers in the story did, in fact, take a rest. The hard rock feel dies away and leads into a foreboding piano-led section, perhaps symbolic of the characters deciding to stop persevering. Here, once again, I have an issue with Bill Bruford's drumming style. While I'm trying to envision what the narrative wants me to convey, these people nearing death from hypothermia, in comes Bruford playing a freaking jazz drum solo like something out of Whiplash. Why? Damn it. The delicate piano part then transitions into a section led by lyric-free vocals from the band, singing la 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 las, which seem to represent perhaps the gates of heaven? Maybe. The melodies are great, but the arrangement is too sparse for my liking. The drumming continues to be inappropriate. I'm not sure why this heavenly segment only features bass and drums in their arrangement, because it's short on a lot of color that would greatly improve the feel of it. Even piano playing broken chords or something. Though a Mellotron choir would have overdone it, I think. So I recommend that you check out the live rendition of this song from Songs from Tsongas, their 35th anniversary live DVD. Great performance overall, and this section in particular adds lots of atmospheric pads and belt synths that truly achieve this feeling that you're taking a peek at heaven as you edge closer to death. Then that fades away, and we return to the hard-hitting previous verse and chorus motifs, though the lyrics take a turn here, talking about warmth now, perhaps insinuating the warmth of hypothermia. The chorus riff cycles on until the end of the fade out, with Steve Howe giving us a solo. I've talked about my thoughts about his playing style already, so I'm not going to get into that here. Besides, the South Side solo isn't too bad. He feeds back intentionally, with his guitar amp a few times and creates this high-pitched, piercing tone, which sounds like an audio representation of ice to me. So that's cool. The fade concludes with the synth wind from the beginning. Yes, really love bringing their songs full circle like that. Really good track overall, though I disagree with some of the instrumentation choices. Next is Bill Bruford's solo piece, if you will, 5% for Nothing. Bruford's first composition, it has an astounding runtime of 35 seconds, making it the shortest Yes track to date. It's an instrumental track, heavy on syncopation. All of the musicians play the same rhythm and or riff, but they play it with a delay of 1/16 from one another, if you get my meaning. I think the organ and drums play together, then the guitar plays it with a 1/16 delay, and then the bass plays it with a further delay of a 16th. I might be imagining it wrong, but it's very impressive if they actually recorded it the way it sounds. It almost feels as if they recorded it all in unison, and then everyone's individual tracks were shifted the appropriate amount. It's really short, it doesn't have much substance to develop itself further, so it's as long as it needs to be, really. Cool. Next is the third song jointly created by the whole band, Long Distance Runaround. The lyrics are about Anderson's feelings regarding religious hypocrisy, reflecting that he failed to see much true and honest godliness coming from the church in all his time attending church in his youth. It's yet another pretty short track, 3.5 minutes. It was released as a B-side to Roundabout, but then became somewhat popular in its own right, getting airplay on radio. It opens with an energetic motif played in 2-part harmony by guitar and keys. Whatever instrument Wakeman is playing on, it sounds like steel drums. I'm not sure on whether that's a modular synth or an electric piano or anything like that. The song section features a cool rhythm pattern from Bruford, wherein he plays in 5/4 time, while the rest of the band play in 4/4 time. Keyboards play a steady set of vamping chords, and the guitar here has a soft and gentle tone whenever it appears. During the verses, the bass and guitar play a little run once per bar, and then take a step back. So it's a pretty airy track. It has a lot of room to breathe. The melody is great, though if you try to sing along with it, some of the jumps from note to note are actually kind of tricky to sing, so it's a testament to John Anderson's skill. The structure is pretty simple. There is a bridge section here, which is just a repeat of the opening motif. It's another cool track. It ends with a very echoey electric guitar playing fast major scales up and down that lead right into the next track, The Fish, open parentheses, Chandleria Pramatoris, close parentheses. This is Chris Squire's demonstration of his skills. The track is in 7/4 time. There is a motif played on harmonics that runs through the whole track. Apart from the drums keeping the beat, and some percussion too, this is all bass, I'm sure. Like Anderson's We Have Heaven, this focuses on layering tracks, in this case bass tracks, on top of each other. There's a bunch of counter melodies going on simultaneously, lots of effects to make the bass tone more varied, like a stutter, wah-wah, and a high-pass filter too. It's quite melodic. Near the end, Anderson and Squire contribute vocals to this piece, singing Chandleria Pramatoris, which is the scientific name of a fish. The title of the song, The Fish, is Squire's nickname actually, and it's apparently because of the extended baths he used to take. In addition, his star sign is Pisces too. Under 3 minutes, this too does its thing, makes its point, and then leaves. It's pretty cool, not jaw-dropping though. This is followed by Mood for a Day, the Steve Howe solo cut. This is a piece played on flamenco guitar, and it has a more soft and classical structure and style to the playing of it as opposed to clap from the previous record. It's got some Mediterranean touches too to the melody, considering that's a flamenco guitar, it makes sense. That's a great and enjoyable track to listen to. Yeah, not much to say about this one. It's a solid composition and performance from Steve Howe. So that concludes the casting call portion of the album, meaning that the band bands together again for the last track to close the album, the 10-minute long epic Heart of the Sunrise. Jesus Christ. Woo. It starts off with a bang, really. The opening riff, played in a combination of 6/8 and 3/4 time, I think. It sounds even chunkier and heavier than Southside, broken apart by discordant flangeous organ. It has a dark feel to it from the get-go. The rock riff runs up and down and back around, but then the band take a breather, and Squire blesses us with a bass interlude. He plays this line, which under different circumstances you might say is sexy. It's got a slow pace, the drums take it easy too. This whole section slowly builds in suspense as the mellotron strings fade in slowly. This segment is in 4/4 time, but towards its conclusion, the guitar fades into existence, playing the 6/8 riff from before, and the polyrhythm converges and the band kick it back into high gear, playing a more suspenseful version of the intro runs. The keyboards only add to the epicness of this whole thing. The band is so tight. My god. Then that bit concludes, and we're left with a mellow guitar picking, setting the tone for the lyrics. Now, the lyrics presumably address getting lost in the city, which is quoted many times in the song. Other times, Anderson said it was about the power of love. Not even Anderson can figure out his own lyrics. The vocal performance here is one of my favorites from Anderson. With every release, his singing improves, actually. By the time of Fragile, it became really clear and more confident. The verses are fairly quiet, with the singing complementing that feel, and he just sounds so good in this one. The bass goes for a walk for most of the song, almost playing a counter melody, a really like a jazzy counter melody under the vocals, with how keeping his guitar part very simple and chord-based. And the loneliness that is expressed in the singing is only accentuated by the relatively empty arrangement of the verses. It then jumps around from theme to theme, loud and soft. The so-called choruses, if you will, are contrastingly powerful and full of desperate longing. The band goes through these motifs that intertwine into each other. Variations of the opening cycling riff return. Wakeman jumps from organ to piano to minimoog to mellotron, having about half a beat to pull off the switchover. The arrangement varies wildly, from full band to just gentle piano, and goes to a bunch of other places as well. This entire song is structured so precisely, so much care given to the arrangement, and in previous songs I had issues with sequences being too empty. Here there is also a lot of air in the music, but it's done to great effect, and gives Wakeman a lot of time to shine, playing interludes that he wrote himself, but he couldn't take a credit for it officially because of contractual issues. Lots of complex rhythms, shoulder to shoulder with basic jazzy beats. This whole instrumental section is so thoroughly composed that Steve Howe has no chance to contribute a solo, thank God. Finally, after that crazy trip, the group returned to the verse and chorus section, sounding more intense than before, John's voice full of passion, as if calling out for someone to hear his pleas. And it climaxes with this one final, "I feel lost in the city!" Then the mysterious mellotron gently takes you by the hand and throws you into the recurring running riff again, finishing off the song suddenly, suspensefully, without a musical conclusion. What can I say other than this is one of their finest works up to this point? But actually, it ain't really over yet, because after about 5 seconds of silence, you hear a door open, which releases a reprise of We Have Heaven, which usually isn't mentioned in the track listing, and this fades out into the true ending of the album. So, upon its release, it mostly got good reviews, and performed great commercially. They really got big with this one, sprouting a couple of hit singles and selling millions of copies worldwide. It's their most together album yet, despite that it's in a way a band divided when you consider all the individually led tracks strewn throughout. No one track in particular offends me. There are definitely stronger and weaker moments, but I'd say that it's all at least good. The weakest points, I'd say, are the solo section tracks, but even so, none are in any way bad. Production is pretty solid too, improving with each release, so I have to give this a pretty good rating, don't I? So I'ma rate an 8.3 out of 10. Some really fantastic tracks on this one. Yes, truly have found their voice, and knew what they were on about by now. So of course there was no stopping them now. They toured a bit more, and then it was time to return to the studio and somehow try to create a follow-up to Fragile. So what did they come up with? And did someone get dropped from the band again? We'll just have to wait and see. So tune in this Wednesday and I'll be talking about their 5th offering from the studio. Like and subscribe for more music reviews and original music. Special thanks to my patrons, and if you're interested in contributing, there's links to my Patreon and original music in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and see you around. Shut the fuck up,